We go to Europe. Vice President J.D. Vance spoke at the Munich Security Conference in Germany about real democracy, free speech, and how Europe is suppressing it.
It's true.
Germany's answer? You're a Nazi.
Pussy.
I'm Jazz Berganzo, and this coming from a country that suppressed its citizens' free speech.
That is true.
Imprisoned them.
That is true.
Put them to death for being who they were.
That is also true.
But they're offended. And it's what's next. Hey, what's up, guys? Jazz Berganzo, what's next? Your daily dose. Hope you guys are feeling good today on this Wednesday. I didn't get a chance to do a video on this subject only because of a couple other things came up and I totally missed it and I don't know how. But did you know that Vice President J.D. Vance was in Europe? Yeah, he gave a little ditty of a speech in Germany, and Germans didn't like it. What was the speech about? How offensive could it have been? Well, he talked about real democracy and suppressing free speech. Has anybody seen London lately, where they're knocking on people's doors and arresting them because of butthurt? That's exactly what he spoke about, and Germans didn't like it. And here we go. This comes out of Breitbart. J.D. Vance, everything we do should be defend real democracy, but Europe is abandoning shared values. America finds Europe retreat from shared values as the continent turns away from democracy towards censorship. Shocking, Vice President J.D. Vance told leaders in Germany in a hard-hitting speech. Now, his speech is about 20 minutes long. I'm going to play just a little bit of it. So if you want to see it in its full context, you can just go to YouTube, Rumble, what have you. But it's powerful, so let's just play a little bit.
Delegates and luminaries and media professionals, and thanks especially to the host of the Munich Security Conference for being able to put on such an incredible event. We're, of course, thrilled to be here. And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values shared with the United States of America. Now, I was struck that a former European commissioner went on television recently and sounded delighted that the Romanian government had just annulled an entire election. He warned that if things don't go to plan, the very same thing could happen in Germany, too. Now, these cavalier statements are shocking to American ears. For years, we've been told that everything we fund and support is in the name of our shared democratic values. Everything from our Ukraine policy to digital censorship is billed as a defense of democracy. But when we see European courts canceling elections and senior officials threatening to cancel others, we ought to ask whether we're holding ourselves to an appropriately high standard. And I say ourselves because I fundamentally believe that we are on the same team. We must do more than talk about democratic values. We must live them. Now, within living memory of many of you in this room, the Cold War positioned defenders of democracy against much more tyrannical forces on this continent. And consider the side in that fight that censored dissidents, that closed churches, that canceled elections. Were they the good guys? Certainly not. And thank God they lost the Cold War. They lost because they neither valued nor respected all of the extraordinary blessings of liberty. The freedom to surprise, to make mistakes, to invent, to build. As it turns out, you can't mandate innovation or creativity, just as you can't force people what to think, what to feel, or what to believe. And we believe those things are certainly connected.
Wrong think.
And unfortunately, when I look at Europe today, it's sometimes not so clear what happened to some of the Cold War's winners. I look to Brussels, where EU commissars warn citizens that they intend to shut down social media during times of civil unrest the moment they spot what they've judged to be, quote, hateful content. Or to this very country, where police have carried out raids against citizens suspected of posting anti-feminist comments online as part of, quote, combating misogyny on the internet, a day of action. I look to Sweden, where 2 weeks ago the government convicted a Christian activist for participating in Koran burnings that resulted in his friend's murder. And as the judge in his case chillingly noted, Sweden's laws to supposedly protect free expression do not, in fact, grant, and I'm quoting, a free pass to do or say anything without risking offending the group that holds that belief. I will admit that sometimes the loudest voices for censorship have come not from within Europe, but from within my own country, where the prior administration threatened and bullied social media companies to censor so-called misinformation.
Facts.
Misinformation like, for example, the idea that coronavirus had likely leaked from a laboratory in China. Our own government encouraged private companies to silence people who dared to utter what turned out to be an obvious truth.
Facts.
So I come here today not just with an observation, but with an offer. And just as the Biden administration seemed desperate to silence people for speaking their minds, so the Trump administration will do precisely the opposite, and I hope that we can work together on that. In Washington, there is a new sheriff in town, and under Donald Trump's leadership, we may disagree with your views, but we will fight to defend your right to offer it in the public square, agree or disagree.
That was a struggling clap. That was a struggling clap
Now
right
we're
there.
at the point, of course, that the situation has gotten so bad that this
I'll edit
December,
this video down.
Romania straight up canceled the results of a presidential election based on the flimsy suspicions of an intelligence agency and enormous pressure from its continental neighbors. Now, as I understand it, the argument was that Russian disinformation had infected the Romanian elections. But I'd ask my European friends to have some perspective. You can believe it's wrong for Russia to buy social media advertisements to influence your elections. We certainly do. You can condemn it on the world stage even. But if your democracy can be destroyed with a few $100,000 of digital advertising from a foreign country, then it wasn't very strong to begin with.
Boom. Well, got two claps. Got two
Now,
claps.
Good news is that I happen to think your democracies are substantially less brittle than many people apparently fear. And I really do believe that allowing our citizens to speak their mind will make them stronger still.
Strong words. An withering checklist of failures in freedom heard by Americans coming out of Europe in the recent months, including an annulled election in Romania, threats of social media crackdowns against hateful content, and even Christians arrested for praying in public. Vance said these developments are shocking to American ears. He said, "For years, we've been told everything to fund, to support in the name of the shared democracy." Wait a minute, I think he just he just read this. Sorry about that. The old Soviet Union lost the Cold War because it didn't value the blessings of liberty, Vance said, warning that you cannot simply mandate innovation of creativity, just as you cannot force people what to think, what to feel, what to believe. It's not clear that Europe has learned those lessons of the Cold War, he said. Listening to the particularly egregious cases of government overreach, Vance reflected, in Britain, across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat. Vance's speech was not just an observation, however. He's also made an offer to the audience of experts, saying that there is a new sheriff in town in the form of Donald Trump, and that he's strongly in favor of freedom of speech. He said to an almost silent room with only scant applause from a handful. Just as the Biden administration seemed to desperate to silence people from speaking their minds, so the Trump administration will do precisely the opposite, and I hope we can work together on that. The speech at the Munich Security Conference made scant reference to the Ukraine war at all, one of the main topics of conversation hoped by the European defense and security leaders attending the event that weekend. Doubtless this came as a shock to anyone given the preponderance of conflict in the minds of attendees, but evidently saving Europe from itself is a high priority from the Trump White House.
With Ewald von Kleist, this conference started as a transatlantic conference. After the speech of Vice President Vance on Friday, we have to fear that our common value base is not that common anymore. I'm very grateful to all those European politicians that spoke out and reaffirmed the values and principles that they are defending. No one did this better than President Zelensky. Let me conclude, and this becomes difficult.
My thoughts. But yeah, it's about a 20-minute speech, and you can pretty much catch it on any platform. But it is Powerful. I mean, seriously, JD comes off the top rope multiple times like Macho Man Randy Savage, and devastating blows. And of course, the Germans didn't like it. Why? Because it was the truth. It struck nerves. You know, they got butthurt. They clenched their pearls. Their rectums were clenching. You know, it's ridiculous. And for these European leaders, these hoity-toity European leaders and military leaders to just sit there, with their noses up in the air going, how dare you, American, come here to our country of freedom, our country of liberty and free speech. We don't suppress anything. Like I said in my intro, this is the same country that suppressed its citizens' free speech, imprisoned them, and even put them to death because of who they were, not because of what they said. But Germany got offended. Oh, what a pity. And with that being said, I'm Jazz Berganzo. This is What's Next. Want to see more like this? Please leave a comment below. Like it, share it, subscribe to it, hit that notification bell so you guys never miss a thing. Continue spreading the word about the show. Appreciate you guys watching as always, and we'll see you next time. Peace.